Building Committee meeting of Wednesday, March 8th. I'll share the screen here if I can figure that out here in a minute. Host disable. Kirby, you disabled my screen sharing?
No, it wasn't intended, Steve.
Well, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, look at that. He's a co-host now.
Okay, here we go. Can you see the agenda?
Yep.
Okay. So we've opened the meeting. The next item of business is the warrant. We have 3 items on the warrant tonight. Bring that up. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. The first item is Fitzmeyer, who's the commissioning agent for the library, relative to the solar panel installation, $3,960. Second item is Vertex Company, related to the senior center, OPM work, $4,400. And the third item is Vertex Company, library solar panels, $316, for a grand total of $8,676. All the backup is attached. I sent that out earlier. I don't know if anyone has any comments, questions. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Barbara only motion made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, Brian Pasquale.
Okay, all in favor. Bob?
Bob Romley, yes.
Brian?
Brian Pasquale, yes.
Stacy?
Stacy Maris, yes.
And Steve Moore, yes. Motion carries. Get back to the agenda here. That's not it. Are you guys still there?
Yep.
So something, what did I do here?
Approval of the minutes.
Well, okay. I lost the screen there. Approval of the meeting minutes for February 8th. I made some comments, sent them out on February just before the last meeting. On the 22nd, I made some comments on the February 22nd meeting, but didn't get a chance to send them out today. So the only minutes we're going to vote on tonight is February 8th. Any comments? Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 8th?
Motion
I'll
to
I'll make a motion to
approve it.
Okay. Marilyn picked one.
One of the 3 of us did it.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, Bob Romley.
Okay. All in favor, Bob?
Bob Romley, yes.
Stacy?
Stacy Maris, yes.
Brian?
Brian Pasquale, yes.
And Steve, yes. Okay, moving on to Shaker Lane feasibility study. Stacy, do you have any updates on that?
On specifically, sorry, the Shaker Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than we are just waiting for, we just signed some paperwork that approved the enrollment numbers that was estimated by the MSBA. We're just moving on to our next phase, which I believe is starting to do a scope, maybe the scope of work for it, or a what is it? Sorry, I'm spacing on the wording here. Feasibility study. There we go.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any questions or comments?
I have a question for you guys, but I don't know if this is the right time for it regarding just we're starting to get some estimates for enrollment for the new development in town here. So we're starting to see that obviously the schools are going to be affected. So at some point during this meeting, if this isn't the time, that's fine. I would like to see if anyone has a pulse on space that we have to expand in the current schools or potential land opportunities we have when the time is needed that we need some more space for the students that we're likely expecting.
Yeah, I think that's all part of the feasibility study. We give them all that information
Okay.
and then they build that into the feasibility study.
Okay. Okay. Is that something that, so that's something we will eventually discuss here to send over to the MSBA?
I don't know that the PMBC needs to get involved in that aspect of it. It's pretty much, the MSBA has a very, what do I want to say, prescriptive formula that they work with.
Yes.
And, you know, PMBC doesn't really, you know, we're not equipped to really weigh in on that.
We get
No,
them when the
so-
project's
Yeah,
ready
so
to
the
go.
MSBA can only, they're giving us their estimate for what we have here and now. So they actually can't even include any of the new developments coming in because they're not here yet. So as a school committee, and along with Superintendent Clenchey, we're trying to figure out what we can do to plan ahead and add those enrollment numbers to a potential build out that we're going to have in the future.
Right.
I think I could have
Sorry.
one
Yes. Yep.
small.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation that's pretty much between the people that are going to do the feasibility study, the school department and MSBA. Would you concur, Brian?
Yeah, with my limited experience with the MSBA, and I can get these answers for you too, what I've seen is that there's a round of kind of visionary meetings about how they foresee the school and how it's going to be intended use for the town of Littleton. And then they kind of develop that space needs into the size of the building. And then they work on the kind of the potential areas and size restraints and land that the town owns that this proposed new building can go to. And then that kind of wraps up your feasibility to kind of move on to the next phase for schematic design.
Okay.
They do have a very prescriptive and say you have 600 students, you know, they have certain square footage of lab space for science rooms and whatnot. So I've been involved in a number of these some time ago, but I think, you know, more to come on that.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Stacy, a good question, because I had the same question watching school committee the other night. Is the question you're asking about the new building to be built or a generalized inventory about all school buildings and associated property?
Starting the conversation of a generalized, can you hold on just 1 second?
No problem.
Yeah, I think the conversation obviously needs to be about what impact to the town this new development will have overall, but specifically to Shaker Lane, we have to extract that information just for Shaker Lane.
Right, and that's where I was concerned because in the school committee meeting the other night, and I apologize for interrupting, that the question was being raised, and I thought what I was hearing from Stacy was a more generalized perspective of the inventory that we have and what may be available at what locations. So that's where I was like, I'm making certain we weren't mismatching each other's statements or comments.
Yep.
Just double checking with you, Stacy.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
appreciate that. That's definitely kind of what I was looking for because it doesn't just relate to Shaker Lane, which is why I wasn't sure if this is the time to talk about it because I'm, talking about Shaker Lane or if it's just something to talk later on in the meeting. But here we are.
So the feasibility study for Shaker Lane has to be specific to Shaker Lane. So, whatever else the town and the school department need to discuss would be outside of that feasibility study.
Okay. So who generally speaking knows the inventory of the buildings, I guess, in town that we will eventually have to bring into our meetings to understand our total inventory to figure out what Shaker Lane will look like?
Total inventory is probably Steve Mark.
Yeah, I was gonna say that,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, or somebody, at least in his department,
Yes.
so.
Okay.
Got anything on Shaker Lane? Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Moving on to the library, Brian?
Yeah, and just to go back a little bit to the invoices that came through, I have a meeting tomorrow with my accounting department. We'll be putting together the invoice packet that will go for the month of February. So, as pertains to the senior center, there was some back and forth with both legal counsels. I believe we'll have the contract signed with Commodore, so we'll incorporate that into the overall packet. We'll get that to you as early as possible, Steve, so you can distribute to everybody. They can have a look at it prior to being put on the warrant. So over to the library, having a heck of a time with the contractor, getting them out in order to get this thing finally, the finishing touches on the commissioning. Having some snow last week, we need to have all the snow off the roof. We've now gotten the melt that we needed. The hope was that we could get this done by the end of this week. Knowing that they're from New Jersey, we have a contractor from New Jersey, we have an electrician from the North Shore, a commissioning agent from Boston, and an engineer from New Bedford. So it's herding cats to get everybody up to Littleton. But the hope is that we can get that done in the next couple days, get it final commissioned, and get that done. We do know that we have an operating system. We do need a nice, clear, sunny day for the commissioning to take place to make sure that the system is operating as intended. So more to come with that. I hope to have everything wrapped up by next meeting. We can close out the contractor, get them financially closed out, and enter the warranty period, because I understand the anxiety with the town. I think we awarded the contract about a year ago, and with lead times we had with the electrical systems, this has dragged on long enough. And so we're gonna we're at the 5-yard line. We're hoping to get this finished up in the next couple weeks.
And what about the chargers?
The chargers as well. We have the town's electrician, Randy O'Grady. I check in with him probably twice a week in regards to how he's done. That was the email that we had sent out last week, Steve, regarding the issues that he's finding with an exterior meter socket that we've had. We were going to reach out to Littleton Light as well. I've reached out a couple times. I haven't heard anything back. We had some questions about Littleton Senior Center that were a little more higher priority regarding their transformer that they were addressing, but I'm hoping to hear something very soon on them about what we can do. If there's any stop gaps that we can put in just so that we can get the charging station up and running.
Is there something special about this meter socket? Because, meter socket is, pretty basic.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you. What we're getting, we receive kind of market updates on a weekly basis, and electrical equipment, while the construction market seems to have subsided a little bit, some of the electrical components that we're seeing are still coming. Switch gear and a lot of the larger items are 18-month lead times, but for a small meter socket, I'm still a little confused why we haven't been able to get this thing installed.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, you probably go to a house that they're tearing down and rip a meter socket off of that house and stick it on the library.
That's my plan B. I'll do it myself.
Okay. Anyway, anything else in the library?
Hey.
Brian, I know you're chomping at the bit to tell us about the high school roof.
Yep. Not a whole lot to report other than we're working on getting the contract finalized for Rockwell. Ryan Ferreira sent out an email shortly before the meeting tonight, and I talked to Steve Mark as well. I think they've got all the loose ends tied up for that contract, and Ryan said he was going to get a notice to proceed issued tomorrow formally to get that process going. In the meantime, after we voted at the last meeting, I notified Rockwell by email that they were the winning bidder, and asked them to kind of informally proceed with compiling submittals and things like that, so we don't hold anything up as far as material release. So they've been working to that end, and as soon as they get that notice to proceed tomorrow, I'll start leaning on them to start getting submittals into the designer.
And I would suggest we also lean on them to get a schedule. I think they committed
Yep.
to starting in June sometime.
Yes. Yep. They committed to starting basically right after whenever the last day of school. And,
Right.
so we need to just nail down that schedule now that they're awarded.
They get the schedule and the quarries and everything else. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions for Brian? Okay. Moving over to the senior center, Brian?
Yeah, and over, back to your roof there, Brian, if the notice to proceed does seem to be taking longer, I think over at the police station, Steve, we had the same kind of experience. We ended up issuing a notice of intent that kind of let the contractor know that the town was collecting and getting that notice to proceed together so that they could start assembling their insurances and getting all of their paperwork together, start pulling some submittals.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Brian, if you're running into any time issues, maybe get a hold of Brian and see what we did as far as
Yeah, I will, and I appreciate that. I think, from this person I talked to at Rockwell, they were good proceeding on my email just to get paperwork going,
Okay.
which is appreciated. And it seems like from both Ryan and Steve Mark this afternoon that they should have something in hand tomorrow anyway.
That's what the email indicated. Yeah.
Yep.
So good. Okay. Thanks. So Brian, the senior center.
Yeah, over to the senior center. We've made some good progress in the last couple of weeks working with the designer. We've had some meetings with LCTV, the IT department at the town, start getting deeper into the end of design development as we proceed into construction documents. And I appreciate Kirby making me a co-host here. I can show a couple drawings. We don't have anything official yet to share with everybody, but I do have a couple things I just wanted to share with the committee. We've also been working with Amy Green from Conservation. One of the items that we're suggesting here for this project, and it's part of our value engineering, is if I can show this. Can you guys see the rendering here of the elevation of the exterior of the drawing, exterior of the building? Yeah. So obviously we can see that this is going to be a cut site. We're going to have fill that we're going to need to import off site. And one of the perks with Commodore is that they've worked across the street. They kind of have an understanding of the lay of the land, and they know some of the costs that come with exporting fill off of the site and where it's going to go. One of the proposed ideas that they've brought up is actually bringing it over down towards the softball field, adding fill, or stripping the topsoil off, adding fill, and then reseeding and making a new field on top of it. They're actually raising the field up slightly, not affecting too much of the sledding hill, knowing that that's sensitive, but also being able to repurpose that dirt down at the lower level. So we've kind of put together this little drawing here that ultimately we're going to have an informal meeting with the Conservation Committee. We have Amy Green that's going to go out and flag some of the areas on where the buffer zones are for wetlands. Obviously, we do not want to impact any of the wetlands. We do not want to have to pull any permits if we have to with conservation. But on an already disturbed area such as this, we believe we're outside all of the buffer areas. But we want to at least do our due diligence with them and let them know what ultimately our idea is. So this is just preliminary. This is what we've been looking at. A couple other things that we've been working with is the senior director, Liz, and her staff. We've been working with their kitchen staff as well as the kitchen designer. I can switch things here. This is a simple layout of what the commercial kitchen will look like.
Say, Brian, going back to that, the fill, 7,500 yards is about how much of what percent of what we need to take out?
That would be that's about all of it. That would be the total export that we would have out of that site.
Oh, that's the total cut. And then if we strip the topsoil and put down the fill that we take out, would they there's some special material that goes in
For the
around
infield?
the infield.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So that would be something that we would be restoring to make sure that the field got brought back up to its original condition, if not better. So they would be putting in new material in for the infield, making sure that they still had the field that they have,
Okay.
and making sure that it was being used for the field that it's intended for. I believe that in talking with, we haven't gotten the full explanation from Parks and Recreation, but knowing what the intended use of this field is, we want to make sure that that doesn't get impacted.
Is that field used for the school, or is that not used for school baseball, just Park and Rec?
It's my understanding that that is not used for the school.
Athletics?
So that's just some of the ideas that we've been having that pertains to our site work. Obviously, my hope is that I have some further along DD drawings that I can send out to the committee so you guys can review and take a look at the floor plans. We had a good meeting with the structural engineer who had to make some detailed changes based upon our value engineering. So we're getting those back, and hopefully we can compile them in the next few weeks.
So Brian, if memory serves, the last value engineering I looked at, this 7,500 yards of soil was at $0. Have they modified that?
What that $0 was based upon what they thought. What they did is they did an analysis of what it would be to export and bring to a qualified landfill area that they could dump it at.
Yeah.
And then that was the delta based upon it. So they valued this at $0, knowing that this was going to, it does cost money to travel dirt from one side of the parking lot to the other, but that's what they based their value engineering off.
Yeah, but not at $35 a yard or something.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Right.
Correct.
Ryan, how much do they think that it'll raise that field?
I think they said a couple feet. Ultimately, we won't know the exact extent until we see the flags of where the conservation buffer zone is going to be that we want to avoid. And obviously, this could be a no-go. If those flags come out and we're taking half of that field off, we don't want to be raising just right field. We want to make sure we have a uniform field out there. If that's the case, we'll analyze it as a project team, whether or not we want to go for permitting, and what other steps we'd have to take with their order of conditions. And then maybe there's another alternative, speaking with DPW, if there's anything that, on the town's property that the excess fill could go to.
And how that impacts schedule.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Some other items I've been working, I've reached out to the town's Board of Health in regards to the commercial kitchen that we have to get their requirements on grease traps. Some towns require 2 grease traps, one interior, one exterior, before it hits our sewer main that we have. So more to come with that. We did do some good value engineering out of the kitchen as well. The Liz and her staff have been great trying to identify exactly what the needs are of the kitchen. And then lastly, just a couple renderings that we have of the exterior. You can see the proposed solar array on here. We still haven't decided yet whether that's going to be part of the total project budget or whether or not the select board wants to go out and try to procure through a grant or through some sort of leasing program that they've done with the library, where they received the grant and they purchased them outright. But the study has been done to understand where the array could go. This array would actually be quite larger than the one that we do have on the library currently. So things are moving along.
Multi-purpose room on the left there is now a flat roof,
No, it's a flat ceiling.
flat ceiling, but they're still keeping a truss roof.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So,
You're welcome. So one of the meetings that we had with Littleton LCTV was the purpose of the multi-purpose room. That's going to be a divided room similar to the meeting room down in the library that has a partition that is a manual partition that can be opened acoustically for 2 offices. We're working with Liz and her staff to really identify what the the meeting room is going to be used for. And then we can cater it to some of the town's departments about what they can provide in those rooms, for the intent that it's being asked for.
Hey, Bob, do you recall when we did the kitchen for the senior center in town hall? I know that we enlarged the grease trap inside, but did we have one outside as well?
No, just one inside.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
That would be a positive to the project.
yeah.
It was a
Good.
fairly good sized trap,
It was very, yeah,
Brian.
Yeah.
pretty
Okay.
good size. Yeah.
Okay, good. Besides that, the consultants are ongoing. We're working hard with, the plan is to have, in April, to have everything wrapped up for DD. And then we're going to analyze the schedule, and we'll be coming back to the PMBC whether or not we want to go into early release packages for our concrete to get that work done prior to the winter, making sure that we can save money on winter conditions. So we'll do kind of a cost analysis there on whether or not we want to do some early release on some select packages. That would be concrete, site, and then a minimal scope for the steel, which would be the anchor bolts that the steel ultimately fastens to out of the foundation.
So as far as outfitting the kitchen, we might want to look at kind of repurposing some of the equipment that's in the existing kitchen, because that's fairly new.
Yep.
all gas.
What's that?
It's all gas.
I'm talking about the 3-door refrigerator.
Yep.
And maybe the dishwasher.
Yep. So in talking kind of round numbers, the original estimate that we got from the contractor was around $200,000 for all of the appliances inside the kitchen. And so as part of the value engineering exercise that we did, I pulled that scope out and made it kind of the owner's responsibility. And so we could either go through a state bid list and get competitive pricing that way for that. We can also reuse some of the equipment that Liz is having. And then it also provides kind of an opportunity in speaking with Liz for potential fundraising and kind of provide a specific scope for people to fundraise for, that maybe we could alter the signage package and put some plaques up in the kitchen if there are any opportunities for that kitchen equipment. So that was part of our design. I took that 200 grand, I took it out of the contractor, I put it in a separate line item. And so that we can kind of work on it as an owner to determine if we can get that price down.
And we've got a fairly large exhaust hood with a integral fire protection system in it.
Ansel system, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got a lot of equipment over there that maybe could be repurposed.
Yep, for sure.
It's not that old, Brian.
No,
No, it's not. It's pretty new.
okay, great. Maybe we'll have, yeah, and that's what we've heard as well from Liz and her staff. So maybe we do have a kitchen designer as one of the consultants from LLB. Maybe we can have them. I'm not sure if he's actually gone into the existing kitchen to try to identify, hey, this is what isn't very old and we want to be able to reuse.
Brian, can you put that kitchen design back up again?
Yeah,
Bob, it's what, 4 years old, maybe?
Maybe a little older than that. I was just looking to see where the stove was going to go.
so that is, let's see if I get my trusty. Oh, that wasn't very good.
Yeah.
So- That's probably an all-electric stove then?
That's correct.
So
Yeah.
it's on a back. It's not anything in the middle, because that hood is mounted against the wall with a in the current kitchen. So
Yeah.
I mean, I could see where it could be reused.
Yeah.
Yep. So currently here we have the range that would be there. We have dishwash and kind of a cleaning station is down in this area. A serving station that's over here where I believe, let me make my way down. This would be where coffee and beverages would be. And this would be your transfer window here, the pass window, that where the ultimately where the dining room would be located right here. You can see at the very edge of this drawing is where the partition would be that would separate the two rooms. Bob, obviously, one of the uses that Liz and the staff have been talking about is having this room double as a potential indoor pickleball court. even with the flat ceiling, but the ceilings are currently designed to be roughly 14 feet. So those are the types of, we want to make sure that the intended use of this room kind of is compatible with what any type of AV equipment or screens that are going to be in this room, whether they need to be mobile on carts or whether or not protection needs to be built around. So with the cheapest option is obviously the priority with those as well. So,
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
just a thought here. When you cannibalize the existing environment, they still serve meals. So the kitchen then would be out of service for X amount of time. So I was just curious about, you know, if you reuse a gear, then you take away the service and functionality that it's now serving.
well, Marilyn, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of that food is brought in from outside and just
It's brought,
warmed
it's
up?
brought inside from outside and put in the steam table. They
Yeah,
don't, in fact, when I talked to Gail, I said something about, oh, and that you'll be cooking meals. Her comment was, hell no.
they don't cook anything in there.
They
But
don't
they
cook.
do use the
only thing that's
refrigerator.
Cooked is
yeah,
the men's breakfast, the women's breakfast, and the veterans' breakfast. Those are the
Yeah.
only thing that I am aware that they cook.
But you're right, Kirby. I mean, you know, there might be a week where we can't use the refrigerator, but that would
Yeah,
be a
just-
last minute.
Just your thoughts.
yeah. One line item I do have is I've put a placeholder in our total project budget for moving, just in case. So this could be an opportunity where maybe there's substantial completion. We do get occupancy for the building, and we pick a day that works for the staff that, you know, a cutover of kitchen equipment can be moved over by a moving company before they actually take occupancy of the building.
I'll set room when we get there.
Yep. So the only other items that I do have for the senior center, and I'll make sure I provide as much new details as we get them. There's some real boring stuff that we have to get through is, well, one is actually our construction manager, Commodore, and I believe about 2.5 months ago when we came to the PMBC about awarding them their contract, they did a proposed staffing change for us. They wanted to take the proposed project manager off, who was the PM from the library. Her name is Sen Blankenship. She was slated to go to a job at UMass, and their proposal was to bring in their senior project manager, Phil, who had a lot of involvement at the library, and up his usage for the senior center. Since that time, the job that they were bringing Sen on has no longer proceeded, and the group leader has reached out to me and asked if they could go back to the original staffing plan that they have. From the OPM and my experience with the project team, I do not have any issue with this. It really did not change the level of involvement that Phil is to me, because I can reach out and call him at 5 in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. And I do think that the wealth of knowledge that Sen brings to the town of Littleton and the job she did at this library it will actually just benefit the project. So I confirmed that there wouldn't be any type of added GCs or costs that would be coming with this, as they would just be administratively adjusting Phil's hours on this job, and Sen would be wrapped up. So I did want to bring that to the committee to see if there are any concerns with that, and I can talk with the contractor, but that would be we're back to where they originally asked when they came in for the interview at this point. So
Yeah, I have no objections to that at all.
My feelings are you got to work with them, Brian.
that's right. The second is that in the next we'll say in the next month, we will be beginning our pre-qualification effort. And so what that means is we need to qualify the filed sub bids that are going to be bidding on this project. Since the library project, we have kind of implemented a procurement team at Vertex that does a majority of the work, and it's very helpful to me because we do not have to go through vetting every single vendor. We have kind of a vast database of all of the same players that tried to pre-qualify on these jobs. So a lot of the reference work we are able to take care of. However, per the law, there needs to be a representative from the OPM, a representative from Commodore, a representative from LLB, And then we need 2 representatives from the town. So we usually take 2 members of the building committee to sign up and then make that the official pre-qualification committee. We'll probably have about 4 meetings. They last about 20 minutes. And at that point, we provide updates. We delegate a little bit of work to everybody. Usually for the representatives from the town, we chip off a little bit of the work, whether it's kind of the painting sub, something that's kind of a light lift that you guys are able to kind of feel involved at the level of comfort that you are. And we kind of take care of the rest. So at this point, we don't have to vote on it tonight or raise your hands. I know that Bartlett's not here today and he's kind of been attending some of the meetings as he can. Not sure if that's something that he'd be interested in. But we will need 2 members that hopefully we can get in the next couple weeks. And then I'll bring in Lorraine, who's from our office, who will be heading the effort. And she can kind of set the schedule for us, and we can make sure we can adjust times and what times we meet just to make sure that it can accommodate people's schedules. So
Yeah, I'd like to wait until we have a kind of a full complement of committee members.
Sure.
When would you start, Brian?
What's that?
When would you start?
So the earlier the better. Obviously, I think within the next few weeks we'll have a level of detail that we feel comfortable that we can put this pre-qualification out, where we have numbers and estimates for what we think that these divisions are going to cost, because that's going to be part of the RFQ that goes out. And obviously we'll take care of the RFQ, the posting that needs to happen. We'll probably be using an online bid service that's short money, but saves a lot of, it saves the town a lot of money in time spent trying to vet all of the paperwork.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we want to maybe put that on the agenda, or just for senior center update, that we can get that when you guys have a more in-depth quorum and we can decide who's going to be a part
Yeah,
of it.
I'll send a note out with the next agenda for people that are interested.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else on the senior center? Questions?
No, we're excited to get going. The hope is that regardless if we do early release packages or not, that by this fall, we've got a shovel in the ground and we have a direction forward.
Do we have any indication as to when the tenant's going to move out of the house?
So he's on a month, what I've been told is he's on a month-to-month basis right now. The exact notification that he needs is between, I don't have the timing, but I believe that's between him and Anthony. And per the town administrator, it's a good relationship, and we just need to let him know with a good lead time so that they can get out of there.
Yeah, it would be good to get a preliminary schedule from Commodore.
Yep, and actually we're working on that currently. We took a little step back because of some of the VE that we did. We changed the design, but we've kind of put together a preliminary schedule. We'll get that firmed up. I'll send that out to the committee so that everyone can take a look at it.
Okay, great. Any other comments on senior center? Member input, Bob?
I'm all set, Steve.
Stacy? Brian?
I'm all set. Thank you, Steve.
The only comment that I have is that Diane Corey sent out an email, and I can't find it. I don't know why, but it was either late last week or early this week, that there is a pending legislation to extend virtual meetings through June or July of next year.
Oh, that'd be great.
It would be terrific. So, anyway, more to come on that, but if I think the current legislation requires in-person meeting after the end of this month.
Correct.
So more to come.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, is there a motion to adjourn? I take that as a motion, Bob.
It's a motion, yes.
Is there a second? Stacy?
I'll second that, Brian Pasquale.
Okay, Brian, all in favor, Bob?
Bob Rumley, yes.
Stacy? You're on mute, Stacy.
Wave your hand.
Brian?
Brian Pasquale, yes.
And Steve, yes. And as always, thanks for your participation. Appreciate it, and have a good evening.